Welcome to the Hyperlocal Podcast. I am your host, Mason Ainsworth, and I'm excited and humbled to let you know that we are partnering with the Economic Developers Council of Ontario to produce the EDCO Award winners, The Deep Dive, a series of high-quality, in-depth conversations featuring the 2025 Award of Excellence and Bright Ideas winners. We'll be highlighting their projects, journeys, and their impact in their community and across Ontario. In today's episode, we will be talking about the Work in Quinte Career Fair and Local Jobs website, which won the EDCO Workforce Development and Talent Attraction Award in the rural category of under 100,000 population, which included the Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board, the City of Belleville, and the City of Quinte West. Joining me today is Garrett Harvey, the Content and Creative Manager for the Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board, Louisa Sorrento, the Economic Development Officer for the City of Quinte West, and Victoria Watts, the Business Growth and Retention Specialist in the Economic Development Department at the City of Belleville. Now, let's get into it. Hi, folks. We have three incredible guests with us today, and we're going to be talking about some different things. We've got Garrett, we've got Victoria, and we've got Louisa. Maybe, folks, if you want to take turns introducing yourself a little bit, and then we can hop right into questions.
Excellent. Thank you for having us. I'm Louisa Sorrentino. I'm the Economic Development Officer with the City of Quinte West.
I'm Victoria Watts. I'm the Business Growth and Retention Specialist for the City of Belleville Economic Development Department.
I'm Garrett Harvey. I'm the Content and Creative Manager for Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board, and we manage the Work in Quinte website and platform.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join me. Really appreciate it. I know we've got a few questions for you today. The first thing for folks is just more of a project overview. I was wondering if you could give us a high-level overview of the Work in Quinte initiative. What are the two main components to that? And what were the core objectives for both the career fair as well as the workinquinte.ca website that you folks created?
I think the first thing is that the Work in Quinte website is really about connecting people to opportunity and helping local employers access talent. Workforce development is one of the most major issues that we hear about from our employers, in every sector, whether it's manufacturing, healthcare, retail, skilled trades. And the Work in Quinte initiative was really designed to address that challenge. Like you mentioned, there are two components to the Work in Quinte initiative. One component is the Work in Quinte Career Fair, which both Louisa and I from Belleville and Quinte West have been working on for, well, not both of us, but we have been doing this for over 20 years in our community. So it's very much evolved over the years. This event is held 2 times a year, and it brings together employers and job seekers as well as employment supports together for face-to-face interactions. So interactions that you wouldn't otherwise have if you were going online or through an application process. This event over the years has really become a marquee event. We attract over 500 job seekers pretty much consistently, and obviously that has gone up and down over the years, but around that. And we have over 50 job employers or employment support partners that come out to support the event. The second initiative, and I'll just quickly do a high level on this, it is the Work in Quinte website, which is managed by the Bay of Quinte Marketing Board. And this is a free platform. We like to say it's like Indeed, but it's free and local. And it really complements the career fair that we offer in our community by making that online connection between the employers and job seekers.
I love that. That's super interesting. And especially what you said there, I think about that face-to-face component. I think now, especially with, the quote unquote, the rise of AI and people doing a lot more stuff online and this real push to, people applying not so much in person, but online. Even some places you walk into and they say, hey, yeah, sorry, I can't take your application. You've got to submit it online. So I think these types of events and programs that you're doing are so crucial because it gives you that opportunity to have that face to face connection. And as you folks know, quite well from the work that you're doing, those relationships, they're just not the same when you're doing them through an online platform as opposed to meeting somebody in person, being able to shake their hand, have a candid conversation with them as opposed to, a structured dialogue through, a text message or an email or something like that. So I just wanted to say, I think that's really crucial, especially for younger folks that are getting involved. So folks, hopping into our next one, talked about a lot of stuff there. I'm curious, what went well? What were some of the key successes that you had? And what aspects of the career fair and the website redesigned went well? Were there any standout results or specific moments or stories that stand out in your mind that really demonstrate the impact of the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I'll take that one for sure. Like Victoria mentioned earlier, so the career fair in particular has been, I'll talk more to the career fair, been around for 20 years. So it was there before us. Our managers and the people that have worked through the City of Quinte and the City of Belleville have historically initiated this career fair. And there used to be a platform where like they had a website where job seekers provided their resumes and to the City of Belleville Economic Department, and then they categorized it and had a system where they would match employers with job seekers. So that was the historical how it all started. The Working Quinte website and platform is an evolution and a progression, and a wonderful one at that helps support the businesses that we have, the industry that we have in our region with their recruitment. So honestly, I think that both projects are huge wins. And I think for me, like what makes me the proudest is we've taken something that was already good, that existed, and we've made it better. And so now it's a much smoother experience for everyone involved. So say, for instance, with the latest career fair, we've noticed that the energy on the floor was amazing. The feedback that we got from the employers was stellar. They kept mentioning how high was the quality of the job seekers and how engaged they were. We've streamlined the registration process, which has also helped with that success. And, I think that streamlining the navigation, overhauling and making a better mobile experience as well, making the registration faster too has also helped. I think that for me, one of the great moments I had at the latest edition of the career fair was to a mature job seeker that said, I usually skip this kind of events because it's kind of confusing. But now with the ability to go to the website and also see what employers are coming, it just made it very easy for me to prepare for that specific face-to-face encounter with that employer. So it's basically what we said before, you said that too, Mason, like having the ability to have that face-to-face interaction too, that's where there is real impact as well. And perhaps Garrett may want to add something on the website as well.
Yeah, so as Louisa mentioned, that website did exist before the Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board took it over. That was before my time with Bay of Quinte. But since we have taken it over, we've redesigned it. We've worked with our web developer, Snap360. They're a local web developer. They've done all of our websites, and they've done an amazing job. We've had fantastic feedback from both employers and job seekers about how user-friendly it is, how simple the features are, and just kind of the fact that people are using the website so strongly after it's only been in the market for just a little over a year kind of speaks volumes to the success. We are able to say that over 20% of the jobs posted on Work in Quinte have been filled through Work in Quinte. A lot of times, they're being cross-posted. You don't just post your job to one platform. And Indeed is kind of our biggest competitor, obviously. They're kind of a global known job board. So to say that Work in Quinte is effective in that regard is pretty strong. We have 214 employers on the website. We have just over 2,000 job seekers, and we see those numbers growing basically month over month. So that's really strong to see that, people in our communities are using the platform.
That's amazing. Maybe Victoria, if you want to hop in.
I think too, the whole rebranding of the Working Quinte, just the whole initiative in and of itself was really significant. Before it was the Belleville and Quinte West Career Fair. And then by working with the Bay of Quinte Marketing Board to rebrand it, I think it just makes it such a stronger initiative for our entire region. And there's so much more that I think can be done now under that kind of Working Quinte brand. So that was one of our major changes, I guess, over the past 2 years since Louise and I came on, was bringing our career fair under that branding of Working Quinte. I think both sides of it really just make for a stronger workforce development ecosystem. And, as we continue to promote it, I think it's going to make just a stronger mark in our region, right? It just looks professional. We're really quite proud of just how it is rolling out.
I think that's fantastic. And I know you mentioned a bit earlier the evolution and the progression of it. I'm seeing that as a bit more of a trend now of folks coming together, especially with everything going on in the world. And how can we work better as regions or in our counties or things like that, where before I found a lot of municipalities were constantly fighting against each other, especially when it came to, investment of new business or even workforce. But having that idea of, hey, we can all work together. And as long as we get people into these jobs in the area, it's beneficial for everybody. So I think you folks have done that extremely well and really excited to see the future impact. And obviously you've been doing it for a bit, but you've also challenged the process and said, hey, how can we take this thing that's went pretty well and make it even better for the future, which I think is really powerful. Quick pause to hear from our incredible series sponsor. If you work with businesses in your community who are affected by trade, you're going to want to hear this.
Running a business that crosses borders? Then you already know. Trade never sits still. New rules, new rates, new headaches. That's where we come in. Peacock Tariff Consulting is your hands-on partner for everything tariff and trade, built specifically for small and medium-sized businesses like yours. No 2 days in trade are the same. We know that, we live that, and we navigate it, so you can get back to what actually matters, running your business. Peacock Tariff Consulting, your customized solution for global trade.
Now, back to the show. So, folks, I know we've talked about the successes and just flipping to the other side of the coin a bit, looking at the barriers and how they were overcome. I'm curious, what were some of the main challenges or maybe some of those specific barriers that you've encountered in delivering the career fair or building out the local jobs website? And how did your team or the partners involved with the team work to overcome some of these things?
Yes, so a challenge that is not specific to us, but is actually a provincial challenge in Ontario is the workforce attraction and retention. So, and how do we solve it? We just talked about that. Our secret sauce is always partnership. We have a great conduit to help train and attract skilled workers that we need for our employers. So we partner with the school boards, Metro Employment Services, Career Edge, Center for Workforce Development, Loyalist College. We're so lucky to have them in our region. We partner with Skilled Trade Ontario. We all work together to improve the quality of the candidates and the fit with the employers that we do have in our communities in the Bay of Quinte and for the job market. So in the past, we have advertised even the career fair outside of the region because in the past the labor force was limited regionally, but now we're told over and over, every time we go to the career fair, we're told over and over by the employers that now the quality of the candidate is the best we've ever had locally. Of course, like any initiative that you do, you have barriers, you have challenges again, but we have the secret sauce around here in the Bay of Quinte. That is how we partner together. And again, because of few minds getting together and thinking about solutions, we continue to introduce improvement and betterment of our processes to just help us solve the next here and there. Like, for instance, we used to have 1,000 participants or attendees to the job fairs like last year. We are noticing that through even streamlining the registration with the QR code and things like that, and for the attendees to even have the ability to prepare through the paths to the career fair that we have. Like we have this workshops with Meta and Pertinent sort of career edge and others where as an attendee you can prepare your resume, you can prepare your interviewing skills and whatnot. So again, it just really helps you have a great experience when you go and have that face-to-face interaction. I didn't know if anyone else wants to add anything else for that too.
Yeah, just to touch on the check-in process that Louisa mentioned, the first iteration of the Work in Quinte Career Fair went very well. It was before my time, but the second time came around last fall, and we wanted to find a way to streamline that check-in process. And, we had looked at some services that allowed job seekers to register and check in at the door, but it also let the employers have a virtual booth, if you will. So they could collect resumes, they could see their applications on the spot, and go through all of that. We looked at some of those and, they're just out of budget for something like us. So we took a look and Work in Quinte could solve all of those problems internally on the website. So we went to our web developers with this problem. They kind of came back at us with a great solution. Obviously, some road bumps, when we first integrated that system. As you can imagine, it worked great when we were testing it one-on-one. But when you have a dozen people in line all needing to, register on the spot, that's where some bottlenecks came through. So just, again, a huge shout out to our web developers for working with us on this problem. We were able to get some of those bugs figured out. And the next time we did it, it worked fairly seamlessly. I'm sure we can iron out some more wrinkles later on. But now we have this great tool through Work in Quinte that we're able to offer through those other regional career fairs that we work with, like Louisa said, like Career Edges, the Metas, are the different partner communities that the Bay of Quinte works with as well.
I think just Louisa had mentioned, and I think it's worth mentioning too, because it's a great idea that we, if I don't say so myself, but a great idea we introduced. We do a road to career fair where we work with our employment supports. And one of the problems that we were seeing or challenges that we were seeing is that a number of candidates, this was in the past, were coming and they weren't prepared. We had a number of newcomers in our community at the time, and they just didn't know what a career fair was. So this road to the career fair happens about a week or two before the career fair, where one of our employment supports actually puts on these programs to support people and orient them to the career fair. We also have, a section of our career fair that is totally about employment supports. And you can actually meet with an employment support worker if you had questions. So those are how, as economic developers, we were identifying some challenges and those challenges had been raised with us through employers. And we were using the career fair to, help ameliorate some of those challenges and be able to get people to a place where they were better matched with the employers there.
Amazing. I like that, the road to the career fair, and it speaks to, I think, some of the work that goes on ahead of time and the matching of folks and just making sure that everyone gets the best use that they possibly can out of the event and the site and such. And just going back to a couple things, just taking some notes here. The secret sauce. I love that. I think you folks are onto something there, which will bring us to our next question a bit. But I just wanted to highlight one line you said, that the employer said that this was the best that they've ever seen locally in regards to the improved quality of the candidates and the fit of those candidates for those roles. I think that's really outstanding and definitely needs to be celebrated, and definitely want to share that message with folks that that is possible to get to that point, and which is why we're having this conversation, to be able to help out other communities so that they can take some of that secret sauce, or at least some of those ingredients, and bring those and package them into their own community. So thank you so much for sharing that. Before we continue, a short message about one of our partners. If you've noticed Hyperlocal stepping up its game lately, that's thanks to Michelle at Storied Places Media. She's a former economic developer and broadcaster who truly gets our goals and our audience. Storied Places produces audio and video podcasts specifically for economic development organizations. They can support your host with the technical side or basically do everything for you, from providing a host to editing the episodes for you and even writing your social media posts. Learn more at storiedplaces.ca. I know we've chatted a bit about collaboration and partnerships, and we've highlighted that a little bit. I was curious if you could dive a little bit deeper into that for me about, how did this multi-organization approach? I know you mentioned a few different folks were involved, how they, really came together and why those partnerships and collaborations are so important for the success of the work in Quinte.
Yes, for sure. So we're in a growing but rural area. And as you know, like the reality is that workforce challenges don't stop at municipal borders, right? So you'll have people, especially in rural areas, we're quite close to Quinte West and some of the other areas. So you'll have people who live in our city, in our municipality, but they work, they have multiple jobs. They may work in other municipalities. So when this started many years ago, I mean, that really was why it made sense that Belleville and Quinte West, which were the larger of the two municipalities in the region, came together and decided that we would be much stronger if we worked in partnership. So our employers draw from the same labor pool. It just made sense, right? That we would approach workforce development in that way as a partnership and a regional perspective. I think what makes it really a great initiative is that, you have Belleville and Quinte West Economic Development who have the relationships with the employers and who have a pulse on what's happening in their community and getting that employer engagement. So it made sense for us to be doing that type of work. We brought in the Bay of Quinte Marketing Board because they have the expertise to bring in that second component, right? Is such a value to our entire workforce development ecosystem, right? So they do the marketing around it, they manage the website. So I think of the three major kind of leads on this project, we bring a lot of skills to the project and a lot of an expertise, right? And making it work. The thing that I always, and especially over the past few times, I mean, I've done, I think, 6 of them now in my time in my role here. I really recognize the fact that this is a community event. Our communities have really embraced this event and they want it to succeed. So, employers will come out because they want to show up and they want to support us. We have employment supports who are there all the time, like want to meet with job seekers and help out. We have, when we do our promotions, we have our local radio stations come out. They all want this to be successful. And I think for me, that's one of the important parts about this is that it's successful because everyone in our community sees the need and wants it to succeed. So to get that buy-in, I think is very important. We really couldn't have the success if we didn't have all those different parts. And it just, goes to show when we talk as economic developers, and especially I think in rural areas of our province, that there are times where we are stronger when we work together. So yeah.
Amazing. And I love what you said there about workforce issues don't stop at the municipal borders. I think that's so crucial and something, especially at the political level, that sometimes we get away from or people maybe don't think about. Going back to what we said earlier about, competition and stuff. And hey, competition is great between places, but also, as you've talked about, the importance of partnerships, the importance of that community buy-in and working together and people actually wanting things to succeed, I think is absolutely crucial because, as you mentioned, like some people have multiple jobs and work in different communities. So why are we not, embracing that and trying to make it easier and get those people fit into the right spots where they can be most effective, which helps them, but also helps the companies as well. Makes a lot of sense. I know we've talked about a few different things in regards to the specifics of what you folks have done within your community. I'm curious for the folks who are listening out there, what advice you would give them, whether they're from, a specific municipality or maybe they work for a region or a county that might want to replicate or maybe adapt something that they're already doing or create, some sort of a local jobs website model in their own area. Where do they start? What should they do? I think, listening to this episode is probably a good start, but if they want to take it to the next level, what would you recommend?
Yeah, I think it's kind of the theme of the episode right now is cooperation. One thing that I've always kind of said throughout my career is the power of co-opetition. It's not competition. We've kind of mentioned that we work with a lot of different organizations, a lot of different partners, especially working Quinte, we deal with all of our member communities. So we're all working towards the same goal, especially in this case, we're all trying to get people hired, right? So how can we work with each other to make that goal come true? We all offer different things. I look at all of the employment service agencies that we work with. We're all doing the same thing. We all have our different, traits. We all work better in different roles. So oftentimes, people come to us working Quinte and say, I want to do this, that, or the other. Sometimes we can't help them due to, the nature of our funding or, regional boundaries, things like this. But I know, a lot of different people that might be able to help. So I can point them in that direction and I know they're going to be taken care of. So I think that would be my biggest piece of advice is, really find out who is also working on similar projects and just ask them, how things work in their sense, what struggles do they have, what can they do better, what can they improve on. So not being afraid to reach out and, just make those relationships.
Amazing. I think that's sage advice. And I've noticed, especially being, somebody newerish to the economic development scene, that everyone seems pretty open to share information and examples and reports, which is really nice. And you don't see that everywhere, that's for sure. Which brings it to the co-opetition. I think that is a really cool term, and that's something that will for sure stick with me in the future. So I know you folks have gotten your award, which I think is incredible. And you've delivered clearly, as you've talked about during this conversation, really strong results, both for the employers, but also for the job seekers in the Bay of Quinte region. I'm curious, how has this work impacted the local workforce and the community so far? And then also dovetailing with that, what has winning this EDCO award meant to you, to your team, and to the different partners who've been involved?
So I'll just speak from the career fair. I think we work very closely, both Louise and I, with our employers. So we often know when hiring will happen. So for some of our larger industry partners, for example, so we'll get a heads up on those things and they'll come out. And there'll be, promotion and advertising around that. And they're really using the career fair as, a launch pad, right? Like as a way, as a platform for them to be able to connect with people. And there's a number of stories where employers have actually hired on the spot. We always have, an interview room that is available for that kind of on the spot hiring. So I think that right there is great success. And it also provides, there's a number of things I wanted to talk around this because it also provides economic developers like information about what's happening, right? It gives us the ability to go out. It strengthens relationship with the employers that are there. And, we're constantly milling around the career fair and asking the questions and finding out how many jobs and what type of jobs. So all of that feedback also comes back, right? And then we use that in our own work. So it's an opportunity for us to gather some intel, about our own communities and workforce development challenges or opportunities. The other thing is that it's also a really great place where, like at the career fair, where the employers themselves, and especially the last one, a number of the employers were saying that they enjoyed just being able to network. So actually bringing them together so that they can also talk about their industries or their challenges, there's also that opportunity there. those are the types of impacts that we're seeing, right? And all these little pieces, I mean, this is one major part of our workforce development strategy here, but it's only one piece, right? But all of these pieces come together to build a more resilient workforce for our region.
Yeah, and for us at Work with Quinte, winning this award, it's a huge honor. It feels very validating and legitimizes our efforts, both in the career fair and in working with like managing the website. So yeah, to be recognized at a provincial level like that is just a huge honor. We were able to say right after, we're not just any job board, we're an award-winning job board. We played that pretty tongue in cheek with in our social media, especially for Working Quinte. We're such a new website still. We've only been live in this new iteration for just over a year and a half, I think, at this point. So to say that, it really just legitimizes us, and we can take that to employers and to job seekers and say, this is why you can trust Working Quinte.
Amazing. And I think that speaks so well to the importance of awards, not only for, recognition of the team to say, hey, keep things up. We've done a great job, but also spreading that word, whether it's to other municipalities or regions who are looking at, hey, I'm looking for something to do or to try something different. And then they hear about this award where it's, oh, hey, that's a fantastic idea. Maybe that's something we can try within our community. So I think on top of that, as well as it inspires others. And I always go back to the story I heard. It was about the Olympics, and I forget all the details, so I probably should look it up. But basically, what happened is there was a certain time that it took to run the 1 mile run, and nobody had beaten the specific time ever before. And then there was one person that went and showed that it was possible. I think it was like maybe the 2 minute mark or something. And then after that person broke through that barrier, then a whole bunch of other people immediately after started breaking through. But it was because one person or one group showed that it was possible. And I just think for me, that is the importance of awards because it shows you, what you can do out there in your community. Because as you folks know, and, being in that community economic development field, sometimes some of the days are pretty stressful. So to look forward and see, hey, there's hope out there. There's other people who are doing this. These are people who are saying, hey, if you want to reach out to me, like get in touch. I can help you start setting this up in your community or at least get you started. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for all being so open today and sharing some of that information, and also well deserved with the award. When you look at like just over a year and a bit, pretty amazing that you've already got an award.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. So folks, I know that was a bit motivational, so my apologies. Sometimes it does happen. You can ask my wife. But looking towards the future, I'm curious, we've talked a little bit about the last 20 years and how the innovation has happened and the progression since then. What does that future look like for Working Quinte regarding, the two things we've talked about today, which is the career fair as well as the website? Do you see any, big opportunities that are coming down the pipe? Or next steps, maybe in the next few months? I know that we're heading into a municipal election cycle, or even looking at the years ahead. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, hey, Mason, we're constantly working to elevate everything we do. We continue to work with the digital platform, the internal process. We continue to support both the candidates and the employers. Again, we don't do it alone. Like we talked about it extensively, we're proud to partner with key leaders in our region. We stay authentic to our DNA of the place and the people of the Bay of Quinte. But, we all bring in something special, and we continue to sit at those tables, come up with new ideas, come up with ways that things can be better for everyone. And together, like all together, we continue to open new doors where people, like regardless of their age, people can start new careers right here in our community. And I would have to mention that, of course, speaking of opportunities, mark your calendars because soon we're going to have the date of the upcoming career fair, which is going to be in October. So stay tuned and keep on checking on workingquinte.ca because we'll be releasing that official date very, very soon, you guys.
Yeah, for Working Quinte, like I've mentioned a few times, it is still relatively new. So I think our long-term goal, short-term goal, they're kind of the same. And it's mainly how do we stay relevant? job boards aren't necessarily, the sexiest thing to market, and our audience is pretty niche. What we've been finding is, once they've found a job or they filled a job, they're not staying engaged with the platform. And, why would they? Because their needs have been met, right? So how do we continue to stay relevant and top of mind when, that cycle does come back around and someone does need a new job or they need to hire somebody else? So we're working with our, local stakeholders, our, economic development partners, our chambers of commerce, the various associations in our area to really help get them on board and become brand champions of Work in Quinte so that when someone does need to fill a job or someone does need to find a new career, Work in Quinte is kind of their go-to first off in their mind.
And I think too, from the career fair perspective, I think the theme has been continuous improvement, and we're always improving it for sure. But things change. Things change in our community constantly. So some of the trends that we've been seeing more recently, for example, is that we're getting a lot more individuals coming out that are more professional as opposed to skilled trades or in healthcare. Some of our demographics are over the age of 50 was one of our largest groups that are coming out. So all of these things have implications, right, in the community. We also, as a region, we're very much involved in engaging our youth and getting them oriented to the next stage of careers. So, we've had discussions on how we can change and make some, involve the career fair to include jobs that are relevant to all of these individuals, based on what we're seeing.
Amazing. And I think that constant evolution that we've touched on a few times is so crucial. I think about, something a little nerdy that my dad always said, and he said, you got to think, you got to adapt, and you got to overcome situations in life. And I think workforce is a specific area where that is constantly, especially when technology is changing. I know we mentioned AI a little bit earlier, and, just the way the world is going, it's, people need to be fast on their feet. And when they have programs like this and they have those relationships where, hey, you might go one day and to do this job, you need these skills. And a few months later, it might be something completely different. So having all those partners at the table, showing up to the table, being a part of those discussions, having that constant communication, and not just with yourselves and the folks who are there doing the hiring or the potential employees. But I like what you said earlier about how those folks who are doing the hiring are also spending that time to talk with each other and build those relationships between companies and employers and such, just so that you can get as much of that data as you need to be able to do your jobs more effectively. And it's very clear to me why you folks got this award, because you're doing an absolutely outstanding job. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for that. I really appreciate the work and you taking the time to share that message with people as well. And then I know we're getting near the end. So with traditional hyperlocal fashion, I do have a mystery question for all three of you. I had one at the beginning and I decided to change it halfway because we've really, pretty much through every question, we've talked about the importance of relationship building, the importance of collaboration, and the importance of partnerships. So the question for each of you is, whether it be in your personal or your professional life, what is the best method you found to start building a relationship with somebody, whether that's, a person or an employer or somebody new in the area, whether you're doing that for, let's say you just moved to, Quinte as an example, maybe to attend the event in October, or if you've started a new job and you don't really know anybody in the industry, or you're just looking to get more involved, what would you recommend for that relationship or partnership building?
Okay, I'll go first. I have firsthand experience of moving from a different country. So I want to share that with you because for me, that has made a huge difference. Having moved from Italy to Canada, not knowing anyone, I went to the volunteer center and started volunteering in the community. So you have to have an opportunity to get to know the people and to listen to see what is it that they need. How can I help? I figured that success always comes if you're aligned with your purpose. And I think that is valid also as well in your relationships.
That's awesome. I really like that. I think that's really deep, especially what you said there. What do you need and how can I help? I think more people need to do that in life. So thank you for sharing that.
Standoff between Victoria and I now.
I'll go. I think certainly getting involved in your community. I mean, I'm going to be thinking from an economic development perspective. If someone was moving here and wanted to start a business, we're really lucky that we have a supportive business ecosystem, and being really open and kind of taking that step to reach out to some of the organizations that are in town, like taking that time to find out what's available. Because once you're, in our department, once you're on our radar, then we can, you know, make the connections to other resources. So our department often gets, in contact or has people call us about, I'm a newcomer, where do I go? And your economic development department has that information. So here's a big plug for economic development. We're very, community and outdoor facing. So we do often have the pulse on what's happening. So that's what I always, if it's, especially if it's new businesses, newcomers, connect with your local organizations, and they often have the information.
Amazing and great advice. Garrett?
Yeah, I think my advice as someone that's still kind of relatively new in their career, I had a professor that once said, never say no to anything, always say yes to new opportunities. And I can kind of track my career so far. It's not been linear by any means. I've kind of jumped around different spots, but I can kind of track where I am today based on those decisions. And it's, always being open to new experiences. You don't really know in the moment what that experience is going to be relevant to in the future, but, I can track the decision that I made to, quote unquote, restart my career got me to where I am today. And it didn't feel relevant at the time, but just be open to those new experiences, go into them, with your true authentic self. And that's how you're going to meet people. That's how you're going to make connections. And, it's cliche, but it's not what you know, it's who you know. So you just don't know who you're going to meet and what's going to be relevant 3, 5, 10 years down the line. So that's kind of my advice, I guess.
I absolutely agree. I'm going to add, Nan, you guys have given me ideas. I mean, moving to a new town or any place, if you're a newcomer, it takes bravery, right? To go out and have to network. But I think the thing is that probably step one is exactly going out and being open to these experiences. And hopefully, that does bring opportunities, and have those conversations. You never know where those conversations are going to lead. So sharing yourself and sharing what your story is and what your needs are, I think that builds relationships.
I love that. Those you all had such fantastic answers. Being open to opportunities and saying yes to things is so crucial. And what you said, Victoria, about being authentic as well, I think that is key. Be yourself and also go out there with the idea of, hey, I'm just gonna see what's out there and check out these opportunities, and not with the intention of like, oh, it's gonna get me X, Y, and Z, but with the intention of, hey, I want to do this because I got invited out, whether it's to a dinner or to maybe a volunteer function or something like that, and just be there and be present. And hey, bonus, if something comes of that, that's amazing, but not doing that for your intention, but doing it with the idea of, hey, I would just want to be open to opportunities. And I think, not to go too deep, but on that mental side of us, if we're, looking for opportunities in life and we're looking for things that are going to help our community, I think we're going to find them. If you're looking for the problems and you're looking for, negativity, that's exactly what you're going to find. And, a story I heard, and it was a guy speaking on stage, and he said, "Yeah, how many of you saw a red truck today?" And like nobody's hand goes up, but it's, if you're looking for that specifically, and I play this game with my family, not to overshare, but sometimes I do. And I used to have a Ford Flex, and every time we saw a Ford Flex on the road, we'd yell out "Flex," and it became a game kind of like bingo, and you would see how many you could get every time. I don't have a Ford Flex anymore, but I still see them all the time. And I think that just shows that if you're looking for these opportunities, if you're looking for these positives, if you're looking for stories like yours of something that's working in a community that's helping people, you're going to find them, and that will help you move other things forward. So thank you for joining us on Hyperlocal today. I really appreciate your time. I know you've given me a lot to think about, and hopefully the folks listening have got a lot out of it as well.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Mason.
Thank you to our guests for sharing their story today. What a fantastic episode of the EDCO Award winners, The Deep Dive, a special series from Hyperlocal in partnership with the Economic Developers Council of Ontario. If you found this valuable, follow Hyperlocal wherever you get your podcast and stay tuned for more conversations.